That was only something I did for a couple of years.
But that's how you kind of got notoriety, right? Basically.
I wouldn't say that either. No, I've been making like documentaries for 15 years on all kinds of subjects.
On TV too, but
some of those, most of the documentaries I made behind the camera. And for 3 or 4 years, I made documentaries about contemporary art in front of the camera. And the first 2 series were comedies about legendary contemporary artists called Art Safari. And they were kind of Woody Allen type comedies. I got tattooed by artists and went burgling houses with other artists. And then I made a film investigating the contemporary art market called The Great Contemporary Art Bubble.
I saw that, and I really liked that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And it was never my intention to become a TV presenter, quite frankly. And although I was working as an art critic at the time, I made The Great Contemporary Art Bubble. If you make a film that's that controversial and that critical about the art world, then you're going to have to, accept that afterwards your career as an art critic is likely to end. And my art workload went down considerably, but that was kind of okay. I knew it would happen, and I was already thinking about what else I wanted to make films about.
So how did you come to this subject? I'm curious.
The internet is the key cultural force, just the key piece of technology. It's a key kind of bit of our culture, a new bit of our culture today. And I suppose the whole free culture debate kind of interested me. I was amazed that there were actual sort of Harvard professors arguing that in the future all movies and books should be free, and all movies and music, that was the argument, all music and movies should be free, and that was just how it was going to be. I was like, God, it's like weird, and the arguments are really weird, and that's because all ideas have to be free, but like food doesn't have to be free. I was like, and there just seemed to be, around the internet, a few years ago, like 2008, 2007, became interested in all the sort of utopian fantasies around the internet. Here was something that was going to solve all the world's problems, make us more democratic, create a freer and fairer free market, and it was going to make us more intelligent because information and education would be spread free instantly around the world. And I just thought that's like a really one-dimensional way to look at the world, look at new technology, and I began to think, how can I make a film that encourages people to think critically about the internet? And then eventually I settled on the subject of mankind's dream, of the sort of creating a universal library. And there were lots of projects to create a universal digital library. There were different projects. And people had been scanning books, and it was such a kind of... It was beautiful, it was utopian, and it was megalomaniac at the same time, like all knowledge up there for anyone to use. And so I decided, to make a film about that, focusing on the biggest project of them all, which was, and still is, the Google Books project.
I'm actually a librarian as well as a film journalist. And from when I heard about the project, I was really excited to see what your take would be. And as a librarian watching it, that's what I was thinking about the whole time. Are you like a regular library user, or did you grow up in the library or anything like that? Or
they're like my favorite places to be on the planet. Libraries are my favorite places to be on the planet because they're like so peaceful, and there's just something so humble about going in there to learn about something you don't know and being able to sort of acquire all this knowledge that's passed on to you by people, most of whom are already dead. Something about the sort of, all human history is just there waiting for you to sort of pluck it off the shelves. And I do spend lots of my time in libraries, and I think the secret of great filmmaking is reading a lot and thinking a lot, and you sprinkle a bit of art on at the end.
What do you think the future of libraries is? Was it kind of depressing making this film, thinking about libraries?
Not really. I mean, obviously the idea, the sort of popular idea, and it's true, is that libraries are going to die. The old library is dead. We're not going to be taking physical books off shelves. The old library is dead. We're not going to be taking books off shelves. It's all going to be e-books and digital scans and whatever else. But people who say the library is dead, that's just bizarre, because in fact, the whole of the internet really is in a way a giant library. And so the library is more alive and more around us than ever, and more people are visiting libraries than ever before, because every time you surf, every time you go online, basically you're going to a library.
Basically, yeah. in the film, obviously, it's centered around Google, but you present Google in a really well-balanced way. Did you find that challenging, or how did you pull that off, basically?
Well, nobody involved in this film wanted to do a hatchet job on Google. We really didn't want to. We didn't think that was fair. And sometimes as a filmmaker, there's a sense that you're meant to sort of go after a target and sort of demolish it. And I don't really believe in that way of making films. There's also lots of good things to say about Google's digitization project. But above all, you know what? I wanted to use the story of Google Books as an example, as an example of the dreams and the dangers of the internet. Because through this example, I could talk about lots of big issues. I could use it as a washing line and hang the themes off it. And it was a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I figured people might actually watch it and, learn something from. A narrative keeps you watching, and this seemed like a good narrative.
There's a lot of obviously people involved in the project that you interviewed, but were a lot of them apprehensive about speaking to you about it, like especially the libraries and the people that are in legal trouble over it, or in legal battle with Google over their books?
Well, Google in Mountain View didn't want to talk to us about Google Books, and they said, we're not going to be part of a film that's only about Google Books. Well, luckily enough, we could argue that our film was about Google Books and many other things, not everything to do with Google, plus the big themes of the internet. You can see it's got sort of Baidu in it, and the Internet Archive, and Wikipedia, and privacy, and survey, all kinds of themes. So Google said, all right, you can come along and talk to our head of search, Amit Singhal, about the future of search.
How did you get the Spanish Google guy to talk? Because it seemed like he was the only one willing to actually talk about the Books project.
Well, Google America said, we're not going to talk to you about Google Books. So we phoned up Google Spain, and they said, all right, well, you can come and talk to the head of Google Books here.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I think, and it's a good interview, and I don't think Google America should have been quite so, non-cooperative in that way, because they didn't have a lot to hide, to be honest with you. They were doing a pretty good thing.
Yeah. And they seem like, just by not talking about it, it kind of puts them in a bad light. I'm a big fan of Wells as a kid. It kind of centers around his idea.
Every British person, knows about H.G. Wells, but, I wasn't really a fan, but I was like, researching this film, and I was, into production a little bit, and I was Googling the idea of a universal library, and suddenly I come across this predictions and this essay by H.G. Wells called World Brain, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy predicted the internet, and he predicted it in connection with uploading all the world's books, or at least making copies of all the world's books. In those days that would be on microfilm. God, microfilm, in those days microfilm was this amazing data storage technology. They thought of it then like we think of the internet today, and it was just a way of kind of adding another layer to the film that would get people to think about the ideas more, and would add a sort of imaginative layer.
Yeah, there's like this running sci-fi theme underneath. They're like we're living in a science fiction movie or something.
Well, hopefully that made the film more entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it did. I was really surprised to see that Ray Kurzweil was in the film, and then by the end he's talking about some of his more bizarre ideas. I actually read The Singularity.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Was that an interesting conversation, or was he apprehensive about that at all?
Well, he's not at all apprehensive. He's a very, fair-minded guy. I asked him for an interview. I told him what the film was about, and he said, yeah, come along for 40 minutes. And you can interview me for 40 minutes. So, you just turn up with these people, and you say, I'm here, and, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. It's great that you've let me interview, you're allowing me to interview you, and when they're ready, they talk to you about, they answer your questions for 40 minutes. And he was, great.
He seems like a really interesting guy to talk to.
Well, he's interesting. He's pretty outlandish, though. He's pretty far out.
You have a lot of different libraries in the film. How did you choose what libraries to film, just for visuals and that kind of stuff?
I wanted libraries that were enormous and looked like they were sort of very, very futuristic, if not kind of spaceships. And we went to the Vasconcelos Library in Mexico City because, I'd seen photos and all these stacks seemed to hang in the air. And I knew that if I shot it with a crane, I could make it look like you were sort of doing a tracking shot past the Dark Star or some sort of spaceship in 2001.
When I was watching it, I was like, what is this? I mean, it's obviously some type of library, but it doesn't look like a library in the sense that people know libraries.
No.
But
And then the trick as a filmmaker is not to sort of do a wide shot so you can see the location. I didn't want people to ever sort of get that specific about it. It just had to be some sort of weird hanging set of shelves that looked a bit like a spaceship. And then we went to the National Library of China. I was doing a shoot in China and I didn't know the National Library of China looked like that. And that's a good sign, because when you see something like that as a filmmaker, the fixer said, "Oh, maybe you should film at the National Library of China." I was like, "Maybe. Does it look any good?" So she said, "Well, come along and have a look." And you will walk through the door, and I was like, sort of, wow, Jesus, this is the most amazing location I've ever seen in my life. And then you sort of compute as a filmmaker, well, if I've researched lots of libraries and looked at books of photographs of libraries, and I haven't seen pictures, I don't know about this, and this is going to be a big wow factor in my film. It's really going to help me, and people are going to really get into the spaces and stuff.
Right. I guess this is my last question. There was a segment about this Chinese book scanning thing, and I was curious, how did you end up finding out about that? And did you actually go there, or was there a lot of just footage you could
No, we went there. I asked, my fixer in China whether they did actually could get me into any sort of scanning factories in China. Did they exist? I mean, one assumed that they do that kind of stuff in China. And she brought me to this place, this disused school, which was being rented out by, a business, and they got all these 20-somethings to sort of scan books and magazines 7 hours a day or something.
So bizarre. I was totally baffled by that there's a separate other thing going on in parallel to Google's.
Well, everyone is uploading all information on the internet. It's not just Google.
Right.
It felt like important to say that in the film.
Right. I was actually excited by that, and where they're talking about the public library scanning project that they're implementing, or they're trying to.